The widely accepted idea that pets are a guaranteed source of happiness is now being challenged by scientific research. The long-held belief that an animal companion automatically improves mental health is proving to be far more complex than previously thought. A more nuanced reality is emerging, one that questions the simple story of pets as a universal cure for our psychological troubles and reveals a relationship filled with unexpected contradictions. For decades, the prevailing wisdom has been reinforced by studies that seem to confirm this pet effect. Research frequently showed that pet owners were less stressed, less lonely, and more satisfied with life. However, a critical look at many of these older studies reveals a potential flaw in their design. Often, these studies involved participants who were already animal lovers, people who had actively chosen to bring pets into their lives and were deeply attached to them. This creates a kind of echo chamber. Asking devoted pet owners if their animals make them happy is likely to yield a predictable positive answer. It's a bit like surveying ice cream enthusiasts to determine if dessert is a source of joy. The results, while not necessarily wrong, may not apply to the broader population. The bias is subtle but significant, potentially skewing our collective understanding by focusing only on one side of a multifaceted story.
A group of researchers in Hungary decided to approach this question from a different angle, designing a study to minimize this inherent bias. Their investigation was cleverly nested within a larger survey conducted during the tumultuous year of 2020. The stated goal was to understand how people were coping with the stress and isolation of the pandemic. This framework allowed them to gather data without signaling that pet ownership was the primary focus, thus attracting a more general and randomized group of participants. Over several months, they tracked the well-being of 2,783 people, a sample carefully stratified to represent the wider Hungarian population in terms of age, gender, and education. Within this large group, a smaller cohort of 65 individuals acquired a new pet during the study period, while 75 participants lost a pet. This natural experiment, set against the backdrop of global uncertainty, provided a unique opportunity to observe the impact of gaining or losing an animal companion in real time among people who weren't necessarily defined by their love for animals.
The initial findings seemed to align with popular expectations. Those who welcomed a new pet into their homes experienced an immediate, noticeable lift in their spirits. This initial phase, a sort of honeymoon period, was characterized by a surge in cheerfulness and vitality. However, this boost proved to be surprisingly fleeting, lasting only between 1 and 4 months. As the researchers continued to follow up, a different pattern began to take shape. By the 6th month mark, the data told a story that ran counter to the conventional narrative. Instead of sustained happiness, the new pet owners, particularly those who had acquired dogs, reported a decline in their overall well-being. Their self-reported levels of calmness, life satisfaction, and even physical activity had decreased from the initial high.
One of the most startling revelations from the Hungarian study was the impact, or lack thereof, on loneliness. A primary reason people are encouraged to get a dog is to find companionship and alleviate feelings of isolation. The data, however, showed that getting a dog did not significantly reduce loneliness for these new owners. In a twist, the opposite seemed to occur. The responsibility of a new animal, especially a dog, appeared to introduce a new layer of worry. One of the study's authors expressed surprise at this outcome, noting that instead of easing loneliness, the dogs seemed to be a source of increased anxiety for their new caregivers. This points to a significant gap between the romanticized ideal of pet ownership and the day-to-day reality. The dream of a furry friend who magically cures solitude was replaced by the stressful logistics of training, feeding, and caring for a dependent creature.
This phenomenon has a name, one that is becoming increasingly recognized by both veterinarians and psychologists: the puppy blues. It describes a state similar to postpartum depression in new parents, where the overwhelming reality of caring for a new life leads to feelings of anxiety, frustration, regret, and exhaustion. The idealized images we see on social media, of perfectly behaved puppies cuddling peacefully clash violently with the reality of sleepless nights, chewed furniture, and persistent potty training accidents. One study from the University of Helsinki found that nearly half of all new dog owners experience these significant negative emotions in the first few months. The puppy blues are born from the chasm between expectation and reality. The initial excitement fades, replaced by the relentless demands of a young animal. This can lead to profound feelings of inadequacy and guilt as new owners question their ability to be a good caregiver, a feeling that directly contradicts the expected joy and companionship.
The challenges extend beyond the puppy phase. The financial burden of pet ownership, including food, grooming, and unexpected veterinary bills, can be a significant source of stress. The time and energy required for daily walks, training, and socialization can feel overwhelming, particularly for individuals already juggling work, family, and other commitments. Research from the University of Liverpool has highlighted that this perceived burden of responsibility is a key factor linked to poorer mental well-being in pet owners. It's not that these owners don't love their pets. Rather, the weight of being solely responsible for another being's welfare can be emotionally draining and can paradoxically increase feelings of anxiety and depression rather than alleviating them.
Just as surprising as the findings about acquiring a pet were the results concerning pet loss. The Hungarian study found that the loss of a pet did not have a significant, measurable negative impact on the well-being of the respondents. This conclusion, however, comes with important caveats. Firstly, the structure of the study meant that participants may not have been the primary owners or the most deeply attached person to the animal in the household, which could lessen the emotional blow. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, the study took place during the COVID-19 pandemic. The participants were already experiencing a heightened baseline of stress and uncertainty due to lockdowns, health fears, and economic instability. Against this backdrop of widespread crisis, the personal grief of losing a pet, while still painful, may not have registered as a major downturn in well-being compared to the other immense pressures of the time. The universal anxiety of the pandemic may have effectively masked the specific sorrow of pet loss in the quantitative data.
So, what does this all mean? It certainly does not imply that pets are bad for us or that the joy millions of people feel is invalid. Instead, it paints a much more realistic and complex picture. The benefits of having a pet are not automatic. They are not a simple transaction where you acquire an animal and are rewarded with unconditional happiness. The relationship is a two-way street, demanding immense responsibility, patience, and resources from the human side. The Hungarian study, along with other emerging research, serves as a crucial corrective to the overly simplistic and often commercialized narrative of the pet effect. The findings suggest that this effect may be significantly overestimated, in large part due to past studies that focused on unrepresentative samples of devoted animal enthusiasts.
The ultimate conclusion is not a warning against pet ownership, but a call for informed and mindful decision-making. Bringing an animal into one's life should not be an impulsive act or a quick fix for loneliness or depression. It is a long-term commitment that can bring profound joy, but also significant challenges. The evidence suggests that the greatest benefits are likely experienced by those who are fully prepared for the responsibilities involved, while those who adopt a pet with unrealistic expectations may find their well-being diminished rather than enhanced. The connection between humans and animals is ancient and can be incredibly rewarding. It provides companionship, encourages a healthier lifestyle, and can offer a deep sense of purpose. But that reward is not a given. It is earned through effort, understanding, and a realistic appreciation for both the profound joys and the undeniable burdens of caring for another life.